too. Hopefully you can actually see me this time. Looks like I'm glitching out again. Always my favorite thing once we start recording. But that's okay. We've got rid of one of our camera angles. We're trying to save all of our adapters. Thank you for anybody who's made it through, stuck around with us. We love bringing you fantastic drinks. Sorry about the glitching. We appreciate you having patience with us. All right. What? Maybe that can help. What do you think, party people? Any better? Ooh, looks like I have a background effect on my shirt.
But just your shirt.
But just my shirt. Thanks, Cap. Right. All right. Well, perfect. We'll go real slow. And we will... No, I'm just kidding. We'll go real slow. As long as everybody can hear me. Can you hear me out there okay? Thanks, y'all. Okay. So as long as you can hear me, let's get started. I don't want to take too much longer. So let's talk about that first drink. I'm not sure where we left off last. But for those of you that don't have full bar equipment, some of you out there have our Bohemian Shaker kit. And yeah, let's get started. We're going to make some drinks. If you do have a Bohemian Shaker kit, I gave you this fantastic little cheat. It's called a blender ball or a stainless steel shaking ball. And what this is going to do is help us whip up cocktails. It helps us whip up whipped cream even with just a simple mason jar if we need it. So if any of you are using this Bohemian cocktail kit, you're going to drop your, you will drop your blender ball directly into that kit before you start filling it up. One quick tip, make sure that before you start shaking that both the metal lid, flat lid, and the plastic lid that you're going to use for straining afterwards are both on together, and then your ring is tightly fitted. That's going to keep it from any leaking getting on your shirt there for you. So that being said, we're going to move that to the side. I'm going to start with kind of setting the stage here. Let's start with getting our glassware. John, do you have a Collins glass over on your side tonight?
Oh,
nice. Yes. I got some Topo Chico.
Wait, is that the tall, thin one like this?
Absolutely, sir. Nice. Good call. Tall, thin Collins glass. That's what we're going to use. There are actual fizz glasses that are even thinner and a little bit taller. They are terribly cumbersome. I don't think I'd ever own one of those at my house, but I've had them at some bars and they're beautiful. But even us bartenders that use them a lot, we'll tip them over and shatter them right there on the bar counter. So we are going to start with this cocktail. We're going to start with just about a ½ inch of Topo Chico or any soda water that you have on the bottom of your glass. Now, this will work whether or not you have a Collins glass or even a rocks glass. Well, look, I went ahead and did almost a full inch down there, but that's okay. We're going to go with it. So I'm going to grab my shaker, and I'm going to drop that blender ball, that shaker ball, right into the bottom of the tin. The reason we need that, for anything with egg whites or heavy whipping cream, we do a 2-step shaking process. That is what is called a dry shake, and then followed by a wet shake. A dry shake is simply emulsifying all those proteins and getting some air whipped into the ingredients. And you need to do that ahead of time before you add the ice, because ice crystals love popping those little bubbles, and it will pop them as they form if you don't take the time to do a dry shake first. All right, so we got our shaker ball inside the bottom of our mixing glass or tin. We're going to start off with the blueberry syrup. Now today's a unique one, John. We have everything pre-measured for us in these kits. Those of you that are joining us with kits here in Portland, you got pre-measured stuff today as well, because we're doing beginner kits. Our advanced kits come with more product that you will end up measuring out yourself. But these are just to help facilitate this for everybody. So what we're going to start off with is a blueberry-based syrup. I'm holding on to my last bits of summer with this syrup, John. There's a little bit of extra herbs added into the flavor, but otherwise it's bright blueberry that's going to be coming through. So we're kind of doing our fall transition here tonight, right?
I remember when we first tried this, one of our first kits. Love it.
Perfect.
Let's get back into it.
Yeah, well, and this is going to be a new take on it, and it is. You knew how much I loved it during the summer, and I'm having this one little last bit of summer flavor with a little extra herbaceousness to it, and then the next cocktail that we're going to do that with a nice moving into fall winter spicy flavors. So we first have that syrup in there, 3/4 of an ounce of that blueberry-based syrup. Next.
And this is all going over the
all over that blender ball. Everything's going over that. Now let's talk about. Let's get that shrub in next. We have 1/4 of an ounce of this shrub. Now I don't know where I got kicked off of the last broadcast, but the reason we don't need too much shrub is it is a vinegar base way of preserving flavors, and we want a little bit of sharpness and a little bit of brightness and tang, but we don't want it to be necessarily briny, like we're having a pickleback or we're drinking. I love vermouth infused with seaweed, but I don't want that for this cocktail. So we are going to go to lemon juice next. We're going 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice for this. Again, remember that we have that shrub in here, so that's providing acidity to the whole thing, so we don't need to overdo it. That's why I dialed back the lemon juice on here from a full ounce. The other thing about a shrub is it is vinegar based with sugar. Those are the two things that are holding on. Welcome in. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting us know. We're working on those webcams for sure, but we're hoping you can still hear us okay, and we can go slow enough for you to follow along and still see some great products. So thanks for holding on there, y'all. So we did lemon juice, and next we're going to do aquafaba. And I'm doing aquafaba, and aquafaba is a substitute. It happens to be chickpea water. This is a vegan substitute for egg whites. John, you're allergic to aquafaba though, so you're going with straight egg whites, right?
Yeah, I can't be vegan on this one.
That's okay. For our vegan friends out there, they understand. I'm sure they wouldn't want to be allergic to chickpea water either. So we're going to add that right in.
What's the role of what's so important about aquafaba, or why is egg white okay?
Well, what we're doing is we're trying to create a foam and a cream. Egg white's okay because we are basically inoculating it with alcohol, and so much alcohol that it's curing it or cooking it in a way. Thank you guys so much. Not only thank you for the donations, but thank you for checking out that Venmo donate code. Kinderlift, good looking out. So aquafaba, John, is let me first say that this cocktail is actually a twist between a flip and a fizz. Now, Ramos Gin Fizz is a cocktail that this is going to look like by the end. The way that starts off, though, is using heavy whipping cream. So that uses fat strands to create lift and bubble and the great foam and head that we're going to create on this cocktail. But one of my favorite things from all my vegan clients is that I can usually tweak it enough that we can use aquafaba to still get us that same lift. Now, technically, if it were with egg whites, though, it would be a flip, and you wouldn't add soda water to it. But then we lose the fun of everything we're trying to build in this cocktail. So we're breaking the rules, combining these cocktails together, and seeing where we go. So if everybody has all the 4 ingredients in, I want you to take and go ahead and pick a gin of choice. Now I have 3 different gins up here. 2 of them happen to be local from the Pacific Northwest. One is Gordon's tried and true London Dry Gin. And then the next I have here is Aria. That's going to be one of our local gins, one of my favorites. I love it. Fantastic flavor profile. It's close to a London Dry with a little bit more botanicals that are added into it. Not too much, but just a little bit more. I wouldn't call it a botanical gin though. Now, if we're talking botanical gin, Vivacity Native Gin, out of Corvallis, all-female distillery, and they make delicious herbaceous gin. They have a banker's gin as well, but this one kind of is my favorite. It's a punch in the face of just herbs and great flavors, very, very aromatic. Now, soda water, we're only going to go about a half, it's going to be about an ounce or half an ounce. I'd say about a ½ inch. That's where I'm going for exactly. So I'm going to do Aria tonight because I like the orris root in the background. So we're going to put an ounce and a half of Aria. Now you can put gin into this cocktail or you can put vodka. It's been tested both ways. And remember, you have a lot of great flavors and tang that you're getting from the shrub. But I want a little bit of juniper in my background, a little bit of extra dryness. So that's why I went with gin for myself instead of vodka. Now, John, you remember what we called the first shake?
The dry
shake. No ice is dry, wet shakes with ice. So let's start this. And we're just shaking it. Everybody hears that blender ball inside, whether you want to or not. And as you're shaking, I'm doing a Japanese hard shake because I want to get it in there as fast as I can. And as I do that, I can actually hear the change inside of my shaker. And you all will as well. All of a sudden, everything gets a lot softer sounding. You can tell everything's getting whipped up in there. Pull your the top of your tin off. Take a look. It should look like a pink milkshake at this point. John, how's yours look?
Sorry, I'm busy trying to find myself on the stream. I got really tiny.
Oh my gosh, there's extremely tiny.
There's no love on your end, nothing on my end.
I'm glitching out, and you're like, and they're pulling you back. Is Twitch trying to tell us something right now?
We are not good at the internet.
Right? Clearly not. So John's getting a nice seal on there. That is the tough part. Now everybody sees how John's shaking up his cocktail right now with his dry shake. And everybody I know just heard the difference in where the whip changed. You can barely hear his blender ball moving now. John, you're about 3 shakes away from that being ready. That was awesome. Now John's also holding his shaker, big shaker out away from him, facing out, and the little shaker towards him. That's because we don't want to spray anybody else who we're making drinks for. So be prepared. This could loosen up and spray you, but at least it won't be spraying your guest. All right, so next up, we got to make this a wet shake. Let's add some ice. I got my ice already ready, thank goodness. And we're gonna make sure the seal's on. Now this one is gonna be an easier shake. We're gonna use that Japanese hard shake as well. And yeah, I don't know I think any occasion calls for it. I'm with you on that. But this shake is gonna seal it. It's gonna be a lot easier than the last one because the ice is gonna chill everything down and create a vacuum. Now you'll feel the frost and the chill on your hands on the outside of your shaker or your Bohemian shaker kit. And look at that, nice and whipped, everything's already dripped down. Now, we're gonna take And I'm going to double strain this one. Just gives me a little bit more control when I'm getting it into the glass. But if I were using the Bohemian shaker set, I would just slowly pour it, tip back, give it a shake, give it a little agitation as that top gets clogged up. The larger pour spout gets clogged up with ice a little bit. All right, as I go, I'm looking for that fantastic ribbon. Look at that. Beautiful. And I'm pulling it away just a little bit because I don't want to lose, just like when we have whipping cream and we fold things in because we don't want to lose all the hard work we already put into it, right? Just worked really hard, and we had a little assistance from that blender ball. But otherwise, we worked really hard to get that air into this cocktail. And look at that rad ombre. There we go. Look at that, everybody. Dark pink to light. That's going to change up here in a minute. Now, we're taking our time. We're slowing down our pace. All of you have been so patient, so thank you. We're not going to slow it down too long. But when it comes to these kinds of cocktails, and to get the effect that we're all going for a Ramos Gin Fizz style cocktail, we want to let that head develop and set up a little bit. And you'll see why in just another minute. While we do that, John, how's it coming over there for you?
Yeah, I can see. I'm a little bit behind you, but
that's okay.
I can see it taking shape.
Nice. I'm sure all of you are just 2 steps behind. Take your time with this. This is the hardest part of the whole drink, is the waiting just a little while for that head to set up. But it's going to be worth it. And it's going to be a fun trick to be able to teach your friends. If anybody comes over and you want to impress them, bartenders that know how to do this are fantastic. Ones that are willing to do it, especially at closing, are even better. Because as you can see, they take a little bit of time. All right, I think we're right where we need to be for this drink. And one thing that I normally would like to do, and I want everybody who's with me to do a quick practice round just for fun. I'm going to take out my stuff real quick, and I'm going to do a couple of streams just to make sure I can get a good stream right in the middle of my dirty shaker tin here. No ice in the glass, that's right. None at all. It should be chilled enough for right now. And not only that, but we don't want to break up that great structure yet. So if you've gotten a couple practice drops.
Wait. So
Thanks for coming in tonight.
I'm not pouring soda yet.
Oh.
Into the glass. You're saying do it in the shaker first.
Do it in the shaker a couple times first. The reason you're
just to practice.
Then that way you're getting a cool practice on the stream and trying to get it to drop straight down. The reason why is we're going to have to put we're going to have to drop that straight down into the middle of this cocktail to get it to go right. Well done. You feel good?
Okay.
Nice, slow, steady stream is what we're going for, everybody.
I'm ready.
It is the perfect time to clean up. Oh, man, I'm sorry you spilled while you were shaking. Thanks for coming in. It was great seeing you. We'll keep going, all right? All right, here we go, y'all. Right in the middle of this cocktail, let's lift it up. And we're going to go just above the rim. Look at that. Now, if I could only get it nice and zoomed in, you'll see we have 1/2 inch above the rim of fantastic little shaky head there. Bring it back. This cocktail is ready to go. Grab a straw. Right down into the middle. Let's try it. Bright. That looks awesome. Did you get it above that rim?
Here's what I got.
Nice.
I can go a little higher.
That's the fun test of this. We used to try and see how.
Oh my goodness.
How high.
Oh my goodness.
Did it go over? So now everybody here's that trick.
No, I'm good. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah! I can't see it, so I'm so glad to hear it. That's the fun part, like getting that on there. We used to try and see if we could go for like 2 inches, which is a lot easier when you have milk fat holding your structure for you. So this is just the fact that we got this much is awesome. John, yours looks great.
All right. Straw right down the middle.
Down the middle. Barbara Blue, thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm glad you like that texture. Bourbon and bacon, yeah. I'm so glad you think it's delicious. What do you think, John?
Well, I think, first of all,
cheers, sir. And Kinderliff, I can't wait to make you one of these for $15.
Gosh, that is so good.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy it. Oni Ebby, you're fantastic for joining us.
Oh,
The fizz portion. I love it. We could have highlights of every fizz portion and see how high we could get. Have everybody send in their attempts for us. That would be awesome. Perfect. I'm glad you like it. It's super summery still. One more time. Thanks, y'all, for posting on Instagram. I'm glad you like that cocktail. Perfect. Everybody, good looking out. Now, before we make our other cocktail, this brings us to a perfect place to talk about this while we taste it. Thank you. I'm glad you like those herbal notes. To be honest, that's what I wanted to get in there. I appreciate blueberries so much, and I love analyzing these flavors. One of my favorite things to do with blueberries is try and pick up what herb I taste most in it. And I get a lot of sage, I won't lie. And I think that's why I like how complementary bay leaves are with it. And it's hard not to enhance those flavors, especially when we're dealing with making great drinks for everybody out there. Let's be honest, as we create flavors, it makes us learn more and more about what people's perceptions are of flavors, more so than even what our initial flavor is. John, you and I have talked about this. My favorite example is Hood strawberries, I think. Hood strawberries and Honeycrisp apples. Hood strawberries are amazing, and I love their flavor. If I were to make you a puree, or if I were to try and make an extract or a tincture of those, though, you would taste sweet, and it might be red color, but it's a really hard thing to perceive as far as it being a strawberry, for you to really be able to tell. Now, there's other strawberries that stand out more strawberry-like for people, and that you can they have a different smell to them and a different floralness, and that is more than just that perfect sweet Hood strawberry that we want to eat up in a day that goes bad in 2. But the Honeycrisp side of that is the same thing. Honeycrisp apples, I love eating them, but they are not indicative of apple flavor. They're very crunchy. They have a lot of, it is exclusive. They only grow on Mount Hood. That's right, Kinderliff. You got to come visit us. We'll hook you up with some. No joke. They literally go bad in 2 days after they're picked. But they are so sweet, just balls of bursting with fantastic flavor. But again, as many times as I've tried to get a great extract out of them, we have a follow-up for you. Now you can look up those Hood strawberries. Every time I try and get that great flavor out, it falls short. Now, apples-wise, John, you and I have talked about wine sap apple. An apple that it took me a long time to even learn about is probably the most apple-tasting apple out there. But nobody knows about it, and nobody really wants to eat it. It's heavy and thick. Think of something more dense than a Granny Smith apple.
But what can you do?
Well, that's the neat part, is that it just gives us a fantastic apple flavor. That's about one of the only apples that we can get an extract from that's a natural apple flavor, as opposed to apple flavor. that we normally have to get. That was quotation marks if I glitched out for anybody, but normally most people go to flavoring agents to make those things happen, to help bridge our perception of that flavor. And me, I'm really trying to be a purist as much as I can, and take advantage of all the immense flavors that we can grow up here in the Pacific Northwest. That being said, John, let's talk a little bit about one of the things we wanted to go over today. Now that we have our cocktail made, I know you and I both have a lot of great friends that are involved in this industry here in Portland. Death. There's called Death Fruit. I'm pretty sure it's that and fear that they add into birthday cake Smirnoff. So it tastes amazing. But everything that we're doing here, everything we've talked about, taking advantage of the local fantasticness that is the Pacific Northwest. All of you that are joining us out there, any of you that are here in the Pacific Northwest, we want to take a second to talk about what our industry is facing. I have been, layoffs happened on March 13th or 14th for a good majority of those of us in this industry, and those of us that have worked really, really hard to not only perpetuate a fantastic experience, but hospitality, community, and really togetherness. John and I have talked over and over again about the whole thing I think we're here for. The most important thing I think us humans are on this planet for is to connect with one another. And those are common places that have been welcoming and available to, I want to say all of us, but at least most of us. And we want to keep improving that and making it better. But if every place is going to go out of business right now, then that's not going to happen. We can't keep that going. We're not going to be able to welcome everyone back. Now, John, you and I have been looking into some of the things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have some progress. Governor Kate Brown has helped make an announcement for our industry that they're going to try and help with some funds for folks. But there's some things
for small businesses.
That's what it is. It's non-specific small businesses, and every small business is hurting. So it's hard to say that it's only that we only need to focus on restaurants and bars. But right now, we're talking about that in particular because it's where I find my livelihood, as well as we're kind of crippled. And that's an industry that could possibly get some help. The first one, John, you want to take it? Let's talk about that first one.
The special session.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, with this supposed or non-specific relief package for small businesses, it is an opportunity to make an extra case for, say, the restaurant industry, which is hit pretty hard, can't operate, has had multiple rounds of layoffs, shutdowns, was already precarious to go back to work. Very dicey. But of course, that's a concrete action item in itself. I gotta say, Billy, I'm more versed on the kind of shocking news about the to-go cocktails, because there's a bit of a protest here, and so that's been on people's minds. People have been sending me that article.
Let's talk about that, and I'll have you pick up on that. The PPP, yeah, a few people got that PPP, most of which had to hold on to it and couldn't hire back their staff. One of the stipulations was that one of the stipulations for that I know of was that you brought your staff back if you could. And most places couldn't justify it. So a lot of them sat on the loan because it was a loan and not a grant or anything like that. They couldn't really even keep their folks on long enough to, it wasn't enough to bridge it. People are working really hard, and they always have worked really hard to create these spaces for everybody. It's an industry that you have to love to want to be involved in, because we're willing to kill ourselves, and that's not figurative. We are willing to literally put our bodies and minds to the fire, because we see what it brings to everybody. It's a pretty great reward to have somebody's night turn around from terrible to fantastic, and you had a big part of that. And creating things that make people happy is literally the only reason that we do what we do, whether it's drinks or whether it's the chefs out there creating food. Now, those chefs have had a little bit of a lifeline because they've been able to do to-go cocktails, but the bars haven't had that same lifeline. And anybody that strive to be a fantastic cocktail bar put food secondary for a good reason. That wasn't their focus. And so to help bridge that, we have the Oregon special session that I would hope that everybody would be willing to talk to their representative, or send just a quick email or a phone call to Kate Brown, letting her know that this is an important thing to you. That not only the special session needs to address cocktails to go, which John will go over in just a second. There is DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats. You're right.
But not for cocktails.
But not for cocktails.
Not in
so
Oregon.
Not here, Kendall. If you're, we're with you on that. From your location, Oregon has a stipulation built into its constitution that says that it can't sell cocktails to go. So basically, what we need to have is a special session where they bring back, and they're actually calling it a. Starts with it. They're calling it. It's a bigger than a catastrophic. They're calling it a catastrophic session. The reason they're doing this is so that they're able to have the lawmakers meet from their own locations and actually change the Constitution and change the laws to be able to make some of these things happen. That isn't even been allowed up until this point. So the catastrophic session, we're hoping will deal with small business loans. We want them to deal with commercial evictions, because they've only been allowing those bills to pile up for people. And I feel like there's got to be some way of having a tax incentive for those owners where they can make the money up on the back end for allowing those businesses to remain and not. I mean, a lot of places, we talked about Pok Pok 2 weeks ago and how they had to go under because Andy Ricker realized he couldn't go this far into debt for a year and then try and get himself out. Right? And that's just it. We talked about the PPE loan a little while ago, everybody. And to be honest, that I heard that they're still investigating thousands of people that got that loan that shouldn't have. And for those of you that did get it, it didn't sound like it was a very easy thing and pretty frustrating. So it always seems like it goes to the people that don't really need it. And then we all know about the people that were all those super rich folks that were posting the new things they bought with their PPP money. So it's a shit thing nationally. It's garbage. But locally, at least there might be something that we all could do to try and move it along and help folks. And with that, and the commercial moratorium on rent, let's talk about legalizing cocktails to go and the pushback it might be getting right now, John. I've read a little bit about this too. Why don't you take that one?
Yeah, so it would be nice if it gets into this special session. It's not a guarantee. It's there's a lot of things ahead in the queue. But I like that one because cocktails are near and dear to my heart. And let's say a bar like The Botanist here in Portland, a very famous cocktail bar obsessed with chemistry and alchemy like we are on this channel. Food, not their, I mean, I think their kitchen's great, but not their primary thing they're known for. And they've got all this space. They had to reinvent themselves over summer to become a rooftop patio bar with lots of distance between tables. And now it's being ripped away from them again. Gosh, if I can't go to a bar, could a cocktail please come to me?
Right. And what have you heard about the arguments for that, back from that?
Oh, the pushback on the issue?
Yeah, because
or the issue for.
I heard one, and it was people are gonna be drunk in the streets and drunk driving if you sell this one bottled cocktail to go.
Right. Like I don't know, beer and wine in grocery stores and bodegas and.
Right.
To go from any carry-out restaurant is that much.
Right. I got to take a second, though, John. I got to tell Bourbon and Baking, thank you so much for adding that list. There is a link right now to contacting Governor Brown. Thank you so much for including that for us. Everybody, just click on that. Just a simple, easy thing. Hopefully, it just takes you a couple minutes, but we can, really, yeah, like John said, I don't think there's much of a difference between getting it from a bodega or any other liquor store that we have here in town and walking out with a full bottle as opposed to a couple of mixed drinks that are diluted, pre-diluted, and have juice and a bunch of other things mixed into them. I really don't see it as being comparable the same way, but hopefully those of us that believe that can be loud enough and drown out the few people that I'm sure are making the argument on the other end. Yeah.
Can we talk about the botanist protest?
Let's talk about it specifically.
That was the article that I was referring to that people sent to me. Is that again this alchemical complex cocktail bar, great bar here in Portland, said, you know what, we're not going to wait. We're just going to do it. I don't know how that's going. Have you heard anything?
I have heard a couple things.
Because the shutdown was started Wednesday, right?
Kinderlift, that is a great idea. If you order at your home address, there's an easy thing to figuring that out. Botanists we were with them as far as being able to do that. I know that the botanist has changed that though. They have had several meetings with the OLCC, and the owners are still pushing. It sounds like the OLCC has kind of let them know that they'll lose their entire business and licensing and everything else under this protest. But also, it might have sounded like they let them know that they have a lot more options to use products. But the main thing is still alcohol. And the hard thing about that, I will say, is that the OLCC, who they've been negotiating with the botanist, the OLCC keeps going back to this is written in our state's constitution, and the OLCC, whether or not they agree, can't do anything about it to change it. I'm sure the OLCC would love for people to be buying more to-go drinks.
I just wish they could look the other way. I feel like there's other things that are worth policing.
Yeah, I am too, but I guess when it comes to like blatant violations of the law, then where
of the Constitution,
right, where do we want it to end at that point? And if they let it go in one place or another, I haven't seen any. I know that they originally had signatures for a cocktails to go program, but the botanist wasn't the one putting it on. I believe that those were already submitted to the state, but it wasn't necessarily enough to open something for a session, and that they were hoping that it got on the last session that was closed out really, really quickly of the state's Senate meeting. That's the whole point of letting the governor know now, is to try and get it pushed for this special session on the 25th of November. And now with the botanist, back to the botanist, with that special session happening and a couple of state representatives jumping on board and actually saying that this is important to their constituents, the botanist has tried to take a better approach so that they don't lose all their stuff, but still kind of push this. So what they've done, which is amazing, for anybody to do this for our industry, and these selfless, like, compassionate folks over there. You said it, John. They create alchemy, and they've created that same kind of alchemy and put a lot of it open source on the internet, so that with a base of wine, gin, beer, or cider, they're hoping to push it so that a lot of different restaurants and bars are able to sell some sort of to-go cocktails that still don't have distilled spirits in them yet. Now, with that being said, though, we still have they changed their language and made it clear that bitters and tinctures could be added, and those help add flavor without adding a little bit of alcohol, without necessarily adding too much. So that does expand things for folks. In fact, we'll get into part of that with our second cocktail tonight, and how I bridge that gap for us. Yeah, cheers to that botanist. So, state-run delivery courier, please just move here. Let's make that happen. But yeah, so it sounds like they're opening that up, and they're letting any bar. I think they have 100 cocktails for people to choose from, and any bar or restaurant can use them and start selling at least legally to go drinks for now. But they've been doing that for a little while, and they need more. I'm not sure if it's going to save our businesses, but it's about the only thing we have to help right now. So I think it's a small concession for all of us to make to try and push that through, especially if we want to see all the innovation and fantastic direction that we've been seeing over the last 20 years in cocktail development, and really like culinary drinks as well. So, yeah, let's talk about. Should we talk about our next drink, John? What do you think? How are we doing on time?
Yeah, I say we move on. I'm thirsty.
Perfect.
And I violated my rule of not finishing the cocktail.
That's funny. I was just about to too. I'll make sure to save it for you.
How do I get all this cream on the inside of the glass?
Right. When you get down to the end, I almost froth it up right at the end there. Oh, hand that off. My engineer there.
Egg cream.
All right, everybody. So, you don't need to clean out your cocktail shakers. Not at all. In fact, the next drink we're going to do, we always try and mix it up. Sometimes we do 2 shaken drinks. Today, we're doing a shaken and a stirred drink. And we're switching gears. No, eat the foam off it with a bar spoon. Don't ever deny yourself that tastiness. In fact, maybe that's how we serve it from now on. Some sort of edible straw spoon. Oh, can you imagine if they made a paper version of the Slurpee straws? That wouldn't last very long, would it? All right, everybody. So the next cocktail, and again, follow along. This isn't going to be too crazy, but it's a nice transition into some deeper, richer flavors. Now that we've started off with, a bright end to summer with that bright blueberry and herbaceousness, we're going to switch gears up. Let's see. Let's start with the base for this. Like our aquafaba, any of our vegan friends out there are going to be able to join us. And this is a creamy based drink. It is not exactly a White Russian, but it could be construed as one. It's not too far away. But what we're doing instead of heavy whipping cream is we are doing macadamia nut milk. And this happens to be the favorite one of mine. It's unsweetened as well. And that's why I like it, because they tend to, when they sweeten them in the bottles, it's hard to know how sweet it's going to come. They tend to have a little bit of variation on that. So again, for those of you that already have the kits out there, we have an ounce of that is already measured out for you. And if you want to take the time, by the way, to clean out your shaker. All we need is something to stir this in at the end. Now, again, we'll take 1 second, and we'll say for anybody out there that has that Bohemian cocktail shaker, oh, you can sub Crown Royal for that. That will work. Whiskey will work for this, and believe it or not, if you have vodka, you can substitute it for this. Gin won't be great. Traditionally, we'll say like a White Russian is going to be using vodka. A coffee liqueur, heavy whipping cream, ice. Really, really basic. That's just about it. And this is far from that as far as flavors go, but but a little reminiscent of it. So that was the only reason we brought that up as far as the flavors. Now, like I said, for a couple of you that are out there with our Bohemian cocktail set, for this one, you're just going to use the bottom base, which is just going to be something like our Yari here, our Japanese stirring glass. And just like I would with a spoon, as we go through, and I'm going to stir, running my spoon clockwise on the inside rails of the glass. You're going to do the same thing. You have this fun straw here, so it's almost just a pencil, like you're holding a pencil, except you're going to, instead of holding it with your first two fingers, you're going to put it in between your ring finger and your middle finger, and just slowly spin that in there. And we'll do that at the end as soon as we have all our ingredients in. And that's going to be how we're going to chill this cocktail, being a stirred cocktail. John, you got all your stuff ready? Perfect.
I think so.
All right, so let's start with that macadamia nut milk that we were talking about already.
This one I can be
Yay!
vegan on. I love macadamia nut milk.
I do too. It's got a really cool viscosity, a nice richness, but it doesn't have the same thickness and viscosity as coconut milk. So I appreciate, or the flavor of coconut. So it's my lighter version of that. Now, secondly, everybody has in front of them that has a kit. All of you have a maple. It's maple syrup with coffee and mole bitters already into it. Now, that's kind of what I wanted to touch base on when we were talking about what the botanist is able to do and what they're expanding on. Everything that you all have in front of you tonight has also been created with no still alcohol in its true form. But we have things like bitters that have been added into it, and tinctures and things like that that help give us those flavors that get us there. And in this case, to make it easier and a simple step process for everybody to follow along with, we went ahead and added it right into our sweetener. So we can go ahead and pour that one right in. Make sure you let it drip, because your maple syrup wants to separate a little bit. Probably wouldn't be bad to give it a little more agitation than I thought I did. And
so I got the ramekin as well. So it's all mixed together. But if I were to make this from scratch, it's maple syrup.
And it's 100% real maple syrup. If you can get your hands on grade B maple syrup, do that. Grade B maple syrup has a little less clarity to it, but a lot more flavor, the richness that you want, and it's technically less sweet than the higher refined maple that we're actually using in this one here, because grade B maple is hard for me to find, especially when I'm not buying it in 2-gallon form, which I've done commercially here in town, but not as an individual or just to my house, or even with what we're doing here online. So, and
then tell me how do the bitters work? Can I buy those?
Well, actually, here we are working on our Etsy shop right now for you to be able to get some of those from us. And these particular two are, you'll be able to get those. This comes through as it comes through with this. I should have mentioned this before, actually. This happens to be a spicy mole that helps really, really set the tone for our wintry, heavier spiced flavors. And you can get this in town if you can direct message me on Instagram or before the Etsy shop is up. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and we'll have an Etsy shop up here pretty soon for everything that we're doing seasonally. And you can always just go ahead and email us and get a hold of us here if you're local in town.
So these bitters are a Thirsty Therapy exclusive. I can't just get them at my.
You cannot. In fact, these bitters are part of a company that we started a couple years ago called Noble Bitter Company, here out of Portland. And slow going. We've actually done most of our sales to either individuals or individual restaurants as bulk sales, and where we'll sell them 20 ounces, a 20-ounce jar of bitters, and they'll put them in their very fancy bitters dashers, just like John has right there in front of him. You guys see it, or behind him, not in front of him. He's got those great bitters dashers. You can put anything in those. So they would buy those bitters from me and put them right into their dashers and use them directly. I like making things seasonally and unique with as many Pacific Northwest ingredients as I can. So thank you for bringing that up, John. You're completely right. And those are how we can kind of add those flavors to things, and how we can give you these kits and provide them to you out there so that you can add one small amount and we give you the rest. Tonight, that small amount, like I said, we're going to do an ounce and a half of bourbon on my end and John's end, and I'd encourage you to do that. Now, if you don't have bourbon and you only have vodka, that'll work as well. It'll still fit the flavors, but I kind of like the oakiness and the carameliness that I get on the back end of any sort of bourbon, whiskey, or like we talked about before, Crown Royal. That'll totally work for this. Now, I have 3 different kinds up here in front of me. I have Henry McKenna blended, which is a fantastic. In fact, Henry McKenna 10-year is my favorite. This is a step down from that, a little bit more approachable, a little bit sweeter, in fact, just a little bit. But a great bourbon to start off with. We have Elijah Craig, where we're moving up in the proof and the percentage of alcohol that's in there. And not only are you moving up in the percentage of alcohol, but you are having a heavier spice blend with that particular one. That's why I really, really appreciate Elijah Craig. Certain cocktails especially, if I want to be able to taste the bourbon and the spice in the background, 1792 will work. That'll totally work. That's going to have a great caramely note to the back end of it. And the heat on there is going to be fantastic. I know you both can handle it, so that's going to be awesome. Those of you that aren't on the foolproof kick before and aren't as familiar with bourbon, start off with something a little bit lighter. Henry McKenna, it's going to be, or Benchmark. Those are 2 a little bit less known. Buffalo Trace is a nice, really mild one to go with. We also have Weller up here. I want to shout out to our friends who hooked us up with a little bit of Weller Reserve. Thank you. It's a great gift, and we really, really appreciate that. Now, Weller is a wheated bourbon, so that means 51% corn. The rest of it is wheat. And that tends to give a really nice, soft, smooth roundness rather than barley or rye, we'll say, when we do rye whiskey, that has a nice spice and a bite to it. I don't know how I missed that, John. I should have had Rittenhouse up there, too. We're talking about rye whiskeys, right?
Oh, my.
Perfect.
Can I use that? No, that's not.
It's not, but it could work, actually, for this one. I don't think you're going to need it because it'll actually take up some of the flavor. But if you want to try it, give it a shot.
Well, I didn't. Right. I didn't tell you what I'm using. I mean, this is the plainest bourbon I have. Evan Williams.
That's a great, and that one's 100 proof as well, right?
Yeah.
Great.
But I think it tastes pretty simple, pretty easygoing. Should be fun with all the other flavors.
And it's a great sour mash blend, just like mine. Yours happens to have a little bit more heat and sharpness to finish up the whole thing. Old Granddads too. Yeah, I don't. A great local bourbon. We have a couple here in town. In fact, House Spirits makes a good local bourbon. The only problem is that making it accessible enough. Right now, I believe their cheapest bottle is going to be $49 or $50 to start, and Old Forester 100 proof will totally work as well. Evan Williams, yes. I'm going to go with this one for now, and we're going to do 1.5 ounces of whatever bourbon you want to go with. John's using that Evan Williams. And Evan Williams is a sour mash blend, a little...
Yeah, Evan Williams
100 proof. I'd say it's a little, much more refined than Jack, but a little bit near to that the background bite that you're going to have on the sides of your tongue that you get from Jack or Crown, in fact, as well. Yeah, Elijah Craig, I'm with you on that one. It's an easy thing, and it always has the flavors in the spice blend that you want. In fact, hot toddies and any sort of drink that gets an extra dilution, that's my go-to, especially because it's one of the only things that really, really will hold up, and you'll get to still have the complexity of flavors that were built into the whiskey still come through at the back end of that cocktail. Now, let me make sure I don't have too much water in my ice here, just because I had it ready a little bit sooner. And we're going to ice this whole thing down. Now remember, just like I talked about before, I'm going to go really slow clockwise here, just so everybody can see, because I know I'm still glitching out a little bit. But I am letting this spin in my hands. The spoon actually rotates in my hand. I'm not rotating it with my fingers. I'm just letting the flat part of the spoon slide around the top, back and forth. Now I'm going to speed this up because I don't want this drink to dilute too much more. And we're going for about 20 rotations here for everybody out there, all right? That should be enough. Now you have two options. I'm going with the julep strainer. You also could just use your regular Hawthorne strainer. Uh-oh. Koopa! Sorry. We have, I know a couple of you are out there ready. We got our BFC, big fancy cube. And it's ready. We're going to pour it right over that big fancy cube. See, it's kind of milky. Not really like a White Russian. But probably the closest thing. The coffee is going to come through. So let's talk for a minute about the bitters that I've added in there. We have a mole bitters, and we have a coffee bitters. The coffee bitters has a little bit of orange in it. I think it's coffee and orange that are the biggest notes that come through. Mole, we have chocolate, we have chilies, we have spices, and we have some, this one we didn't do for this particular one, doesn't have any nuts in it though. Left those ones out on purpose. So I have my cocktail ready. It's in there. My BFC is just hanging out there at the bottom. It'll start floating up at the top. But last but not least, we need to set off those other flavors, and we want to add a little bit of fresh orange oil to the top. So John and everybody that's got kits from me today, you got a flat orange peel, just lightly trimmed. John, I'm going to have you hold up your orange peel and do a quick expression onto your glass, and then bring your peel back up to show them how you did that expression. Basically, I'm doing this because I don't want you to lose any of your oils. I want them to get onto your cocktail first. So now,
no, not on it.
Now bring it up and go ahead and show everybody how you. Nice. So you're going to squeeze it that way. You can give it a little twist back and forth even after you get it on there, and then flatten it back out and right to the side of your ice cube. Now for me, I thought I'd do something a little bit different because I like being nerdy. And I have this fantastic channel peeler. Shout out to my late father-in-law, who was a French-trained chef. I've had 5 different channel peelers in my 2-decade career, and this one is hands down the best and the nicest too. So I'm pretty excited for having it. And I'm going to do my channel peeling right over the top of my glass because I want that same oil that all the rest of you are getting, because that's the point of the garnish more than anything else for these particular fresh garnishes, is actually putting that oil on top. And then secondarily, it's prettiness. So as I go through, I'm just channeling right along, and I'm spraying the top of my glass with all that orange oil. Now to finish it up, I'm going to curl it around my finger. And I'm going to shock it right into the glass, right next to my ice cube. Perfect. And as I do that, it's shocked. That means it'll stay in place. I'm going to bring it right over, curl it off the edge of my glass. That way it doesn't hit me in the mouth every time I take a sip. All right, everybody. Cheers. Let's sip.
Cheers.
All right.
Oh, man.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, Johnny.
I never understood White Russians, but now I think I might.
I appreciate.
This is like whiskey and chocolate milk.
And spice. Oh, thank you.
Who
I'm
doesn't like
glad you
chocolate
guys
milk?
like the bitters out there. That's what I was going for. I want a little bit of brightness, like you would have for brunch, but a nice spice on the back end. It's just getting you on the back, right in your throat. Shouldn't be too much heat on your tongue. I'm so glad everybody likes it. Yeah, I'm glad you're liking the bitters. They are my passion. I love analyzing these flavors and coming up with, just like we talked about earlier, it's John and my job to change your perceptions of things and help your perceptions of things. There might be a little bit of that, especially with the orange in the background. Yeah, there is, and there are, well, and the anise flavor is probably going to be coming through when we're talking about the bittering agents that are going to go into the bitters that were used. And we didn't use anise, but we did use a few other ingredients to kind of lend themselves to that. Licorice root is one of them, where it doesn't have, it's a great bittering agent, but it does have a slight anise hyssop flavor almost in the background. Yay, I'm so glad you're all loving it. And Mom, thank you for trying it. That's so great. Uniabi, bring your family every time we do this. You know that, you know there's enough drinks for them to have. Right?
Fun for the whole family. After you put the little ones to bed, of
I was
course.
going to say, as long as we're keeping it 21 and over. Thank you all. I'm so glad you're all loving the flavors that that I worked so hard to put in there. I'm trying to go for great, well-rounded flavors, and I hope, is everybody picking up enough on the coffee flavor as well? Because I feel like that was super concentrated, which is my favorite, is that we needed so little in there, and yet you have so much coffee flavor still coming through.
Right. I mean, again, not to compare it so much to the White Russian, but I'm thinking coffee flavor has got to be provided by a coffee liqueur that you can't just get away with a few drops of bitters. Right. But that's all that this is. It's just how many drops of bitters would you say?
This one's going to be different because that one isn't as concentrated. So I'd say altogether, almost a quarter of a teaspoon total. So there's enough in there, still potable and still not overproof. None of the bitters that I make are over 40%. So with them diluting down the maple syrup and being just over a quarter of an ounce of maple syrup to make that happen. Perfect. I'm so glad everybody's enjoying that. And then hopefully the coffee flavor came through more than any of the caffeine, and we're just getting that great flavor and not being afraid to go to sleep in another few hours. That was always my biggest thing with guests, is who would say, that sounds amazing, but I don't want to be up for the rest of the night. Well, this still gives you that without having to have that perception. And also, you're not going to get a bellyache after a big meal because you're having a bunch of heavy whipping cream to finish you off. Perfect. I'm glad that bourbon's still coming through and you can still get the flavors on that. And this is a really, really quick, light stir. We're just trying to get it chilled just a little bit, and I might have even stirred mine down a little too much. And by the way, for everybody practicing out there and trying these things on their own, keep in mind that's why we use and why we use for your kids. the full maple syrup, and we don't do a dilution. Now, a lot of bars that I've worked in, we will dilute down maple syrup 2-to-1, just like we do honey. Not that they have to be, but because they're easier to pour, just a little bit faster. They come out of a pour spout, and they're easier to measure more than anything else. And you're not sitting there like we did waiting for it to drip out while 15 cocktails stack up waiting for you to make. And keep that in mind whenever we're doing anything that we want to be not too watered down, like a nice sipper at the end of the night, is we couldn't push this past any more diluted. It'd be way too much, which is the difference between what you would get in the White Russian with the thick fat of the heavy whipping cream in there. So glad, Iguana. Thank you for enjoying that subtle mole flavor. I just want it to be just and complement everything you're working with. Cheers to everybody. John, now do you enjoy the orange on top?
Oh, it's essential. Yeah. There's so much going on here. Really blows out of the water like a simple cocktail. Any imitation with milk or
Good. I'm glad you liked it. And cheers to all that, y'all. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining us in here at Thirsty Therapy. Again, I'm Billy. Good John, the bar back here. He and I are doing our best to bring a safe cocktail environment to you. Not only that we can have some chats and make some cool cocktails together, but learn, ask questions. We want this to be an open forum and be welcoming to everybody. So if you have any friends out there, please let them know. If you're enjoying the cocktails you're making tonight and you are able to take any pictures of them, please see us on at Thirsty Therapy on Instagram, so that we can share those with everybody else. It is the only thing that I miss out from in this setting is actually seeing your faces when you're taking a drink of anything, or seeing the cocktail after you're done. Oh, thank y'all. And those bubbles are a real thing. I wouldn't have never known it if I hadn't done this for a career. I'm sorry, John, I cut you off.
Oh, no problem. I was just going to say, I think, in 2020, as things shut down, life becomes more digital. Hopefully, we get some semblance of normal back. The chatters speaking up, making the same thing with us, following along, giving us these compliments is wonderful. It's the next best.
It really is. Yeah, it's all we can ask for right now. We love being able to keep up with you. And Margarita knows I've got to not only make that drink, but that's got to come in my repertoire. And find out about that toasted coconut almond milk. That sounds fantastic. So John's
is that drink what, Frangelico and toasted coconut almond milk? It's on a different level than Jaeger bombs from last time, right?
We are so much further away from our Jaeger bomb conversation that we were talking about.
Okay, sometimes I don't know if the chatters are throwing shade or trolling or.
Either way, I'm not gonna hate on it. You could call me like anything you wanted. If I had Frangelico and toasted coconut almond milk, I'd still be happy. I'd drink it. Those flavors cool. Sound like would be they'd work really, really well together. It'd be on the sweeter side, but it could be great. And in fact, in the back of my mind, I'm instantly thinking about upping the sharpness because I love too much the taste of alcohol. And all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I wonder if we put some cognac in with that Frangelico. To round
the only thing better than booze is more booze.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if it's not enough, I'll just add something else and sharpen that right back up. Oh man, yeah. we got to try it. Not only that, but if we, I should have a, let's see, we have an Asian pear going right now. I should have a spiced walnut bitters, black walnut bitters here in another month or so, and a few other things that would be awesome to add into, add just a second note onto the Frangelico. I love doing things like that because most of the time our brains end up kind of associating those flavors together anyway when we mix those up. Of course, I love putting in maple syrup. Thank you for even bringing that up, Iguana. Maple syrup is a great natural sweetener, low glycemic. It adds a richness everybody expects because of log cabin. Everybody expects their maple syrup to be super sweet, and real maple doesn't taste like that. It adds a nice richness and just a rounded sweetness. I almost think of it as being like, I guess it'd be almost like a turbinado. I wouldn't go as far as a gome. Gome is a gum syrup that we use because it's not that thick, but it has the same play to it. It's a little bit thicker. It seems like it's sweeter, but when you add it into a drink, it really just adds a subtle sweetness to the whole thing. And the Godiva chocolate liqueur, no joke. Godiva chocolate, my very, very first step up from the college bar, shot bar that John and I talked about last time on last show. My first step up out of that was a fancy martini bar in the 90s. And we used, it was right when, actually, same year Joy of Mixology came out from Gary Regan, who we use his bitters. He was the first person to kind of start pushing the cocktail revival here the last few years. He was the first person to kind of really talk about Godiva white chocolate and their dark chocolate, their Dutch chocolate, I believe it was, vodkas and liqueurs and things like that, and how you can integrate them in. There's one more that he used to mention, and it was it's the name of a famous, it's Picasso vodka, I believe. And it has naturally sourced flavoring agents, supposedly. I haven't actually done the research on that, so please, let's pretend not to quote me on it. But he was the first person to start revamping that, and the cocktail bar that I started working at taught me his drinks, and I didn't know it until 15 years later when I bought this book and found the cocktails they taught me right out of his book. And what a time it was. Yeah, well, I just think it's funny and how far we've come to, like, we were willing to create new cocktails with whatever flavors we could get back then. And they were few and far between, except for the established liqueurs and things like that from Europe. But even those, John, they were hard to find. We didn't know, that's how we got on the Jaeger subject, I believe. Jaeger is an Amaro, and that was about the only Amaro we knew about. It just happened to be mixed with Red Bull most of the time, or something even gross. Something even grosser. But now that we've had this revolution, we're able to get so much more here into the United States. Yeah, but you know what? We'll give it its love for being an Amaro and actually like having some sort of fortified complexity within it, and the flavors. I'm still
sort of an unlucky
It is an
Amaro.
unlucky Amaro. I feel like all of a sudden, like, that needs to be our mission one night now, John. We need to do, like, sometime in January when we're done with all the holidays, we need to do like a how can we save Jaeger cocktail night.
Yeah, Jaeger for adults.
Jaeger for established drinkers.
After our last broadcast, I was at a crossroads. If I were a real bartender, I would have cooled off for the rest of the night by having a Rainier or a PBR, right?
Right.
But instead, I said, we talked so much about Jaeger. Let me throw that into another pineapple-y, rummy drink. So I did a Jungle Bird with Jaeger instead of Campari. Oh my god, so good. And the spices and that you came up with last time.
Yeah,
the Berberine
really,
spice.
and it worked. And the mint in the background of the Jaeger really still came through with everything.
I mean, that's a Jungle Bird's a really complicated cocktail, 5 ingredients, but it tasted awesome. I mean, it was definitely different than the Campari version, and it made me go, "Oh, Jaeger's totally viable." I mean, if Campari can be so popular, why can't Jaeger?
They're both just sickening, sweet, bittering agents, essentially. It's just about what we choose to do with them that changes our perception. Blue Curacao, yes. I actually have no hate for Blue Curacao. Just before our shutdown, I was creating cocktails for Han Oak, and their owner happens to really like tequila, which I do as well. And so I was trying to come up with a bright blue tequila cocktail for them using blue Curacao. Curacao, so blue is just, the only thing about blue Curacao that's fake is the blue, right? Outside of that, Curacao is a unique and nice dry orange liqueur, and everybody should try some. In fact, Pierre Ferrand, if you want like the super fanciest version of Curacao, Pierre Ferrand has a dry Curacao that is on point. But even that, in its expensiveness and refinement, is still sugary, sweet orange flavor, and it just happens to be dry orange flavor. Campari is totally drinkable. Yeah, actually, there are a couple. Like I said, when we were talking about the Adios, you can put them in for the flavor and not just the color. And Han Oak is amazing. I wish them nothing but great success. I'm really, they've been doing to-goes for right out of their restaurant with to-go snack food, because it's really hard to translate their menu out. And they're also doing brunch boxes, so everybody should hit them up. What a great family that have put all their time into that. The audios might be worse. The AMF is probably definitely worse than the Ramos Gin Fizz. And again, I've been spoiled. Oh, sorry, John, please.
I kind of weighed in on the Ramos Gin Fizz because we were cheating today earlier in the episode with the blender ball. It didn't take any time at all.
Well, I was gonna.
But it can take a lot of time.
So funny you just said it. I just was about to mention I haven't had as much of a problem since Raven and Rose. They had the best hack ever, second to this, or just above this blender ball hack, and they had a full blender like you would have at a malt shop set up on the wall, where you would just do a few pulses of that on all your egg white drinks just before you got started, sanitize it, wipe it down afterwards. Now that to me that's a few $100s worth of genius to make that happen, but it was for a high volume bar, it was inevitable. Now I don't think I'd ever not have a bar program that didn't have some of these blender balls involved in it, though, John, just for what you said. Because you kind of take the complaining and all the extra work out of creating that cocktail that way. Then, I mean, if you didn't have that agitation while you're going back and forth, that whipping process that we talked about, that we listened for, and that we can actually auditorily hear once you get through it, it takes 4 times as long, and your arm has to shake 4 times as hard.
I mean, and bars across the country could afford.
Everybody should, right? Yeah. But again, remember, John, we all need one of those. Then again, John, we are trying to create this to be accessible to everybody. Our cocktails, there are a lot of places that are like, oh, we won't do that because it's cheating. Or we won't do, just like with the blender, there's some places that are like, we'll never do that because it's cheating. And what I want is
Cheating.
or it's not the way somebody else said to do it, right? But I want consistency for my guests. I want, if we're doing them together, I want to give you the ability to do some of these things. And you don't shake cocktails for your career. You're not doing this for 5 or 6 hours a day and have the muscles built up. So why not give you just a small little tool that takes all that away and just gives you the ending results that you're going for? Right? Aren't you worth
Billy,
it, John?
all this wonderful. Oh, we are all worthy of good at-home cocktails.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Yes. Are. So, okay, small, technological cheat hack. What's a nice term for that? Okay, so that makes a Ramos Gin Fizz or the Fizz flip that we made earlier totally accessible. So I guess that really leaves the AMF as the least desirable drink, right? But not because of technology. It's because of the person ordering it.
Right. That all depends on the person and how they order it, though, too. I suppose if I had somebody really nice and kind come up to me and go, somebody's told me that I was supposed to get this drink and it was called an AMF, and I'm not sure, but would you be willing to make it for me? You're a bartender that I trust. I absolutely would do that. Now, if somebody came up to me and said, this is the only fucking drink I like, line them up. Yeah, there'd be a whole different, we'd have a whole different set of talking points at that.
Do you have a we reserve the right to refuse service
to anybody?
Sign?
Almost never. You know me. You know that. I was gonna say, you have the actual experience of seeing that I would be the last person out of the bar if it meant that it was gonna make that person that much happier at the end. And I'd stay there making that one thing. And I wouldn't say anything to them at all. I'd quietly just, even if I went, God damn, I can't believe I had to shake 6 Ramos Gin Fizzes at the end of the night. That's awful. I would never say anything to that person for it. Only because, yeah, maybe the next time they'll start understanding those aren't the most time-efficient things for me to do.
All right. When this is all over,
I'll make one for you then.
When the vaccine is, we're going hidden camera into Billy's actual bar and ordering an AMF and watching him serve it with a smile.
I got to study up now, right? I got to make sure I have all these obscure what could be. We'll start doing a surfer on acid here.
Oh.
Man, and let's not lie. Just like everybody's talking about, John, you're about to show, these BFCs are perfect for this cocktail because we cannot have them. We don't want this diluting any more than we already did. It's sitting right where it needs to.
These Tavolo silicone trays, they're quite inexpensive and totally worth it. It's not that, at a bar you have like a professional ice company that'll make you crystal clear ice. These will have imperfections because it's freezing on all sides. It's silicone. But this is all right. I mean, I'm really happy with mine.
Don't forget, John, my entire cocktail program for Afuri, which we had a $30,000 cocktail program. We did our entire cocktail program based around those cubes that we made with silicone molds. Now, we've learned tips and tricks to try and help us do that. But yes, PDX Ice is out there for anybody that can afford it. They are an amazing company. They make beautiful ice. I love everything that they do. I have never had the budget to be able to afford it in any cocktail program that I've been able to run. Raven and Rose had a great relationship established. So I got to use PDX Ice and see everything that they did and how they layered cool images inside of theirs. That was fantastic. And yes, Iguana, I'll tell you about those tips in just a second. But there are places out there that do that. Unfortunately, it ends up being 50 cents a cube. But if you can do it and you have your guests that want it more than anything else and you can charge for it, then that is, man, you can't get any better. And you don't have to have your staff wasting their time doing all those things. So the tips that we've started doing, and I'm going to first tell you about how clear ice is formed. And I think that that's important for everybody to think about, and then maybe you can come up with some even better tips and tricks, and you can teach them to us here. Because Thirsty Therapy is not only here to help teach you things, but we're here to learn. We're not above any of this. So if you find out something new, tell us. We want to know about it. We want to test it out. That is what I do. This is the test bar here, and we constantly are trying new things. So with that being said, the cleanest, purest ice forms in nature, we'll say first. And I want everybody to think about any being near a creek or a small river during after it snowed, during freezing conditions. And you'll see right on the banks, the edges of the river, the really, really clear ice that you could almost step right through. That particular, and I have seen that, Weathersmith's ice chest too. That is the clearest form. So PDX Ice and a bunch of the other companies that do commercial ice have a machine that freezes layers of ice the same way ice freezes in a river. It's the same science, it's the same technology, and that's how they get your crystal clear ice. But they also have it formed in huge sheets. I think they're 6 feet by 4 feet, I believe. And then they use laser cutters or band saws to cut through them. Wild, right? Nothing that any of us are ever going to do. So if we were at home and we're using a silicone mold, I have 2 things that I do. One is, and these are all research things, please look them up, verify me. There is a trick about boiling your water twice, and it changes the molecular minerality of that. And they've tested it being boiled twice as opposed to being boiled once, and that there is a huge difference. So at a furi, we would have twice boiled water, essentially. We would take hot water and let it, and then boil it again. Let it come down to room temperature-ish, where it was just above room temperature. And then we would put it into the coolers. Number one, we were breaking our coolers because we were trying to put it in there. And plus the ice never came out crystal clear either. Now, one tip that I've learned for all of you at home that you can do as a hack, and this works better for our home refrigerators, especially side-by-sides, than it does at a furi with a commercial refrigerator, is I happen to stack one of those trays on top of a gallon or a half gallon of ice cream or something else, just to lift it almost about an inch or two underneath my ice maker and the ice maker dispenser area. And the reason I do that is it closes off. And again, I still take the 2 steps of hot boiled water twice, but then putting it up there, the air blows through the top of it almost the same way. And that's the only way I've gotten crystal clear ice at home and been able to make it work. Otherwise, you're going to have it pretty darn clear with a small starburst in one corner. And that just happens to be the middle corner of your, like John has a 6 cube tray. I have a 4 cube BFC tray. And so the inside corners of each one of those cubes, and John, look at your cube right now. Do you have one corner?
It's quite cloudy.
The whole thing?
I
Okay.
didn't boil it.
Well, we'll do mine.
I can show you. I can show that. This is cloudy ice.
Well, and mine's pretty cloudy too, but more so in one corner than the rest. And that's because, or in yours is too, more so on one edge than the rest. And the reason for that is those are the last ones to freeze. So the last little bits of bubbles get trapped in there. Yeah! Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm never one to be, if it doesn't work for you, you better tell me right away. I want to hear it tonight, tomorrow, whenever you know it.
Clarify for me the double boil. You like let it cool off and then boil it again? Is that what?
That's
That all that
literally
means?
it. And we never let anything cool off too much. In fact, we usually had a tea kettle type of thing that was always on hot tea water that was just about boiling. I think this tea water happened to be at 120 degrees, and yeah, it's got to be 131 to be boiling. So um, the tea kettle was just under, and so we take water directly from the tea kettle that we had filled up just hours before, pour it into a pan, let it sit for maybe about 30 minutes. So it never really fell completely down to room temperature. It was still tepid or warm to the touch, and then we'd start it on another boil again. As soon as it hit the boil, we took it off the water though. That was like, or took it off the heat instantly and then let it start cooling down. From there, once it got to be mid temperature, we'd pour it into the silicone molds. And when we were sure that they weren't steaming at all, the silicone molds, then we would move those directly into the freezer. Perfect. I'll be waiting to hear it. You can send me a DM on our Thirsty Therapy Instagram, please. I gotta know now.
Wait, how long should a BFC take?
It'll take at least, it'll be ready overnight. So it shouldn't be too bad.
Overnight, you're talking 8 to 12 hours?
Yes. I think
Okay.
minimum, it depends.
Depends
I
on the
was just
freezer,
going to say
right?
minimum. There's another trick, too, since you brought up freezers, different freezers, John. Um, I have had better luck, and this is the opposite of the technique we were talking about before. I have had some good luck with putting it on a sheet pan and putting it into my deep freeze, the tray with the ice and the cubes in it. Um, that tends to freeze it just a little bit faster, but I think it has more to do with the fact that my deep freezer is pretty full, and it has more to do with that space area that we were talking about. The same reason I lift up my cubes closer to the ice machine or the ice maker, there's a constant flow of cooled air running. Here, I'll do it here, running around your ice tray. That's going to give it a more even freeze and make it more crystally. All it's doing is trapping oxygen in there that's already literally a part of the water that you're trying to turn into ice. That extra little oxygen just wants to jump out right there at the end, as it's freezing and compressing those molecules. So I am always open for anybody here joining us. Please let us know if you come up with some more things. We want to share them. Again, everybody's worthy of great cocktails, right? No matter whether you're here with us here in Portland, anywhere you are across the country, Colorado, New York, we know you're all out there, right? So we all deserve to have good, great cocktails. We're all worthy of that. So let's figure out whatever it is that it's going to take for us to be able to create those for ourselves when we can't make it out to our fantastic establishments that work so hard to provide great hospitality for us. I mean, John, you and I, that's what we're here for. We want to be an open book. If y'all have questions,
That's right.
let us know. If you have topics that you want to start seeing in some of our shows here headed forward, let us know of that as well. And if you're just stuck, this is a great time to ask us, hey, I've had this bottle of what for the last 2 years, and it's either getting thrown away or tell me something I can do with it. I got you. We'll figure something out to do with that for you. I promise. Pedestal ice trays sound like
What's on tap for next time?
Great. Oh yeah, next time, John. In fact, we're moving on. We're actually taking our mole warmness here, and we are bridging it into more fall flavors. We're gonna switch into heavier fall cocktail flavors, things that are reminiscent of the next couple weeks and the meals that we're gonna be enjoying. In fact, we're gonna do some spiced pear flavors in our next cocktail. let's see, we have that, and yeah, the spice pear. We're doing the pear jackrabbit, right?
Like an
Like a
Applejack
take on an
rabbit.
apple jackrabbit. Although we're kind of changing that up as well.
We'll
We're gonna be
clarify that.
smacking
Okay.
that around
Okay.
too. Only because it's an apple jackrabbit is a great cocktail, and I like it. The cocktail, we named the cocktail that we're going to be doing next week after that because it has very, very similar flavors. But believe it or not, I accidentally came upon these flavors on my own, just putting them together. I like that I can take a little bit of apple brandy and mix that with a little, even less pear brandy and get a great rich flavor. And then we add a little bit of bourbon to round the rest of that out. And that's how we're like circumventing our apple jackrabbit. Because if it was just an apple jackrabbit, it'd be just applejack, orange, and lemon, right? So we're never just sitting on
Well,
a concept. We're trying, since we're changing it from one, we're gonna richen it up from the other.
cool. That was deep. I'm looking forward
Perfect.
to that. I guess the only thing is we should just be flexible and leave room for whatever viewers ask
I
us
think so
about.
too. Why don't we do that for next time? We can do the apple jackrabbit, and then we'll leave it wide open. In fact, all of you out there, bring us those questions. Bring us a bottle. Ask us what you want us to, what we would suggest doing with this one thing. And John and I, we'll have enough basic flavors around, and I'll have everything in my grab bag too to help. And we'll come up with some cool stuff for everybody out there. Now, if you want to let us know ahead of time, please feel free to do that during that through DM on Instagram. Outside of that, we'll just flow with it. You ask the questions, and we'll come up with some cool stuff. What do you think, John? Does that sound as like open to interpretation? Does that sound
Yeah,
fun?
yeah. Just like tonight, I think we've hit on a lot of interesting topics and viewer questions and things that sometimes we forget about when we're so used to. Well, you, the expert, you forget being on such a high level.
Well, yeah, but I'm still drinking it the same way everybody else is. So that's and remember, I'm making drinks for all of us. You and I have talked about that before.
That's right.
Us bartenders are willing to drink some garbage that other people aren't because we're willing to see the potential in a bad drink or what somebody was trying to come up with or the subtle notes that I could also, some of my favorite drinks I could hand to a stranger and
Oh,
they'd overpower them.
right. All I meant to say was I appreciate you riffing and I appreciate the comments.
Well, thank you everybody for commenting. We love that you're in here and we will keep riffing and doing that for you. You know what? Iguana, whatever, I'm okay with any kind of challenge. I'm open to it. In fact, I'm hoping I have everything that you have. If not, I got at least an idea. If I don't know the product that you have, if you are able to give me some sort of flavor profile from it, I think we can. I think we'll make it work. And I'll be honest, if it's just too much and I don't feel confident sending you that way, I'll just tell you that. But what's the worst case scenario? Try and throw me under the bus and let's see what I can do. I love crawling my way out of there. One of my interviews, in fact,
And
one of my interviews for running a bar program was they brought out a box. Actually, this has happened at two places now. They brought out an entire box of old booze that they had in an old closet somewhere and said, well, part of your interview is we want to see what you can do with any of this shit right here. And I've not disappointed once. So, I mean, I might have tossed a couple drinks here and there, but by the time I presented them with a cocktail, Yeah, they were ready for it and they were happy with it. That's not me tooting my own horn. That's what they said. So let's do it. Let's open it up to everybody. I mean, that's part of what it is I'm empowering you. I want you to know you're worthy of the kind of cocktails that you will come out and see me at a bar and pay me $20 or more for. I want to empower you to be able to make that and know that you are so worth it to do it. And as long as we have fun, let's keep connecting as humans and do this. And that's all it really matters. You know what?
I'm kind of picturing...
Willing, somebody is willing to do a Food Network show based on this. That would be amazing. The only trick is I'd only be cool with it if we could have feedback from our guests. Because as John and I talked about, it falls short for those of us that have been in the hospitality industry for this long to not be able to make a difference in somebody's life out there and actually see you and have an interaction with all of you. So if we could do that and still have people chiming in and talking to us and have a fantastic moderator to do that on Food Network, we'd be there. Right, John?
Hell yeah.
If only.
And in the meantime, though, I was just chuckling. I'm picturing, we don't yet, we're not yet able to bring people onto this stream. So I could see us kind of limping along through chat, like, okay, I have this Frangelico. What do I do with it? And on the video, verbally give some instructions. Later in the we go on making our drink, but later in the stream, okay, I tried it. Now the kitchen's on fire, so I'm dealing with that. Another hour passes. Okay, the drink turned out all right. I would love to see that progression in chat.
And only in chat. It's my favorite that can happen in chat, and we could be totally like, can you imagine how distracting it would be, especially for me, if I saw somebody struggling? Not only, I have a hard time seeing somebody struggle with their shaker on the other side of the camera, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let alone a house on fire, I wouldn't be able to keep going. I'd rather just know it all worked out later.
Maybe it's best it's in chat.
Right, yeah, right? That's perfect.
But I'm saying we're up for the challenge.
We're totally up for the challenge. And yes, I am okay with a non-booze ingredient as well. Let's keep it open. Why not? Same thing, same rules apply though, Iguana. If I don't know it, you gotta have some descriptors for me as far as flavors and things that I could, notable things that I could compare them to. And yeah, I think we can make that work. This is going to be, who knows, I could be shooting myself in the foot, but I think it's going to be fun to try. And John, I have your backup knowledge to help me. We got cheese in our ears if we need it. Our engineer. Not real cheese. I don't have real cheese in my ear.
Oh yeah, someone off screen with like a flavor Bible or Google.
Oh, we do have the flavor Bibles here, and I won't hesitate to pull those down when it comes to any of those things. And tarragon. Oh, I actually know of a cocktail right off the top of my head instantly. It's a tarragon cocktail that is made here in town.
Of course you do.
A tarragon syrup and bitter melon cocktail made from Dead Shot on 11th Avenue. Please go see them in a month when we're allowed to serve guests again. And a fantastic alchemist bartender created. He started with pop-ups, which we would love to do eventually, but and then he moved into his brick and mortar. Unfortunately, maybe a year plus just before all this happened. So I'm happy he's still able to make it. He has Natasha, who is an incredible bartender. I've got to meet a couple times as well, working for him, running his bar program, and yeah, they are. That's true. Anyone with turkey dressing will have tarragon. All right, well, let's do it then. I'm going to bust out some tarragon this week and practice with it a little bit. That'll definitely be on the list. And let's keep it open to anybody else doing the same thing. Everybody knows that I like different herbs and flavors and things like that. Especially if we can find it from great local farmers here, uh, even better. I'm going to check out Milk Run and see if I can get an order in from somebody from the farmers market. And if not, New Seasons will probably be my next guess. How about you, John? You think you can get something like that from like Barber World Foods, or what do you got around you? Not World Market. What grocery stores? New
New
Seasons too?
Seasons.
Okay. I think they always have Tarragon, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, they would.
In fact, that is one of the few places outside of Wajimaya that I can source galangal from, which I use. In fact, I have a new batch of Thai bitters going right now. Galangal is one of my fantastic flavored bittering agents that I like using. A Thai, some people antiquate it closer to ginger. I'd say it's sharper than ginger, a little more astringent as well. You know that though, right, John? You've had that one?
Right. I mean, I don't have it, but I know the flavor. Yeah.
Well, we'll get you some. I actually have some in a bag right now. You know I do too. Got some in the fridge.
Why am I
Yeah,
not
you
surprised?
shouldn't be. I'm always gonna have weird stuff around. Well, everybody,
I look
what do you
forward to it.
think? John, you ready to get going? Hey, everybody out there, thank
Yes.
you
Yes, I've had my
so
nightcap.
much for joining us tonight. Again, I'm Billy. This is John. We want to thank our engineer Cheese for making this happen for us. And yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us through all the glitches. That's what we're doing this for. We are working on getting everything set up. So let us know. Please give us your feedback, and we will work on making this better and better every week as we see you. Next show is going to be in a couple weeks, and we'll have it on our list. We'll email you if we know you and know your emails, and any locals, hit me up and we'll talk about what we can do to bridge the gap for some of these cocktails. Maybe you can make some of them for us, at least the pear one, the pear jackrabbit next week. All right. Thanks, everybody. You're awesome. Have a great rest of your night. Your donations and your time has been more valuable than you can ever imagine. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.